All right, Ben. We've got 3 words for you.
3 words. I'm ready.
Breakfast pizza season.
Are those the
Explain.
are those the 3 best words that you've ever said, like especially this time of year?
It's people like who haven't experienced breakfast pizza season don't even realize how good it's going to be the first time they do it after we just introduced it to them or are about to introduce it to them.
Yeah, like you said, we're gonna have to explain that more, but there's nothing better than that feeling of like you're hungover and you want something, but it's already there for you. And not only is it good, it's breakfast, but it's like your staple food. I love it. There's nothing better.
Breakfast pizza season.
Let's get loaded. This is the Loaded Box Podcast.
Where we never finish first because we finish last.
DJ, I've never been more happy with you as I take a sip of my drink for the second time today because we tried recording this earlier and technical difficulties got the best of us in 2019. That's unfortunate, but welcome to the Loaded Box Podcast. We are going to, everyone's breaking news today. It's Antonio Brown. It's the whole deal. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to football. We're going to get to fantasy football. But you said nothing sweeter in an intro in the history of our 189 episode podcast than those 3 words of breakfast pizza season. For those of you who do not know maybe what that means yet, let me take you into a quick trip of what our fantasy, or not our fantasy football party, but our March Madness party consists of, because we go really hard Thursday of March Madness. And then we kind of try to go a little bit Friday, but we're old now. We're in our 30s. We can't go quite as hard. But then we go hard again Saturday. And we do all this planning, and we want something to eat because we know there's not a lot of times before that game starts. After you wake up Friday morning, you're hungover, you don't have a lot of time. It would be great to make eggs, bacon, sausage, the whole just 9 yards of breakfast. But what's better is you have that frozen pizza. The meat lovers, DJ, the meat lovers, you put that freaking thing in the oven, you have it for breakfast, voila, breakfast pizza.
I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I'm not since nobody heard this before. But the first time you introduced it to me, Ben introduced this to me, I walk in the house, down in the dumps. I know I've got to get ready and get going for another full day. Got to bring the energy. And the next thing I know, Ben pops up, breakfast pizza's ready. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that means, but I'm here for it. And ever since that day, I'm like, I need breakfast pizza at March Madness.
And that's the most beautiful thing. It's not your typical breakfast pizza that you actually go out and buy, like, oh, we're gonna get a breakfast pizza. No, it's just pizza for breakfast, and it's March Madness season, and that's the only time of the year you eat it, right?
It's the only time of the year I will ever eat it because it'll just run. It's not as fun if you just keep doing it every week.
You know what? It even got me even more excited today was earlier we were watching some college hoop, and you hear da 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 da, and that right there, I instantly think buzzer beaters, beer, and breakfast pizza. Like that's all I need to think about.
Shit, yeah, boy.
All right, all right. Well, I'm looking forward to breakfast pizza season. We're like a week or so away. But man, the breaking news in the NFL, not so much breaking anymore by the time you're listening to this, but Antonio Brown goes to the Raiders for a 3rd and a 5th round pick. We all knew he was going to get dealt, but are you surprised that it didn't take more than a 3rd and a 5th round pick?
So as I have seen on Twitter, and I kind of think myself, there's got to be something bigger going on because it just doesn't seem like enough at this point. Like a 3rd and a 5th, there's got to be other. Like, how is there not other offers better than that? Maybe it was just like Big Ben. It was like an ultimatum. Like Ben said, it's either him or me,
right?
And they just had to get rid of him as soon as possible. And I don't know. I don't understand the relationship between Big Ben, the owners, all that shit. It's weird to me because obviously Le'Veon Bell wanted to basically get the fuck out of there himself as well. It's kind of, I don't know what to think. I don't know if I'm surprised. I'm just like thrown off.
I think you said this actually in the first time we tried recording this podcast, and I like what you said because it's almost like they needed to make a decision. It's either them or us. And they went with the old guy. They went with the old guy who's in that same class of quarterbacks with like Phillip Rivers, who's coming toward the end, Eli Manning, who's coming to the end. Like Ben Roethlisberger is in that class of quarterback. and they opted to not go with the younger skill position players in Bell and Brown. But you know what? We're going to ride it out. We're going to make Big Ben the lifetime Steeler. He's earned it, but we're going to go that direction. It just seems like they went with the old route, which you never really see. You always see the teams trying to go younger.
I don't know.
Thanks.
I'm so thrown off. I'm so thrown off by what is going on over there. I can't even like. I've just been reading Twitter all afternoon, and I've seen Elliot Christ, friend of the podcast, has been like talking about it constantly and what's going on, and I've seen Ben Albright. And I just can't. There's so many different like views on it, and I can't just understand it.
Do you like it as an actual football move?
Do I like it as a football move? I don't think it's a bad football move because I know that something about building for the future. I do think they can win now. Hear me out. I just rethought about this since our last fake podcast.
We don't do fake news. We do fake podcasts.
They get Antonio Brown, right? Let's say they add Le'Veon Bell. They just traded Osemele over to the Jets to open up some more cap space. Justin Houston's now been released. So let's say they go get Justin Houston. They have Le'Veon Bell, and then they draft 3 defensive players in the first round of the draft. They can win games right away. Like, I actually believe if they did those things, they could win.
I would never say that your team is going to get worse by adding Antonio Brown. Like, that would be incorrect. But at the same time, this team is retooling and they're not rebuilding. It just does not make sense to me with what they're doing. They traded their young receiver in Cooper. They traded the young pass rusher in Khalil Mack. And now they're bringing in like a 31-year-old receiver. And I get it. If let's say they bring in Bell, they bring in Murray, they think they can win now. I envision this team when they brought in Gruden, signed him to a 10-year deal. I thought they'd go the longer route and try to build through like second and third tier free agents, fill in those gaps, and then build through the draft. They have all this draft capital. They're draft rich. But they're trying to do this whole like we're the Rams, we're going to try to win now mode, but they didn't show me anything to think they're just a couple pieces away. So now you have all these rumors. We're going to bring in Kyler Murray. We're going to bring in Bell. We're going to bring in Brown. And they're actually going to try to do it in 1 year. It just doesn't seem like it's going to work to me. And I know you mentioned like, well, you can focus in on the defense. I just don't see the turnaround happening that quick. I'm super surprised that they're going this route. It doesn't make sense to me.
If you turn that offense into a top 10 offense by just adding those couple of guys, and then all your defense has to be is like top 20, they can win now. That's what I believe.
Maybe it feels to me in that division, especially when you have the Chiefs, who are that kind of like up and coming team, and they're going to get better on defense as well. It's like I don't know. I don't. Like I said, it's impossible to say that your team got worse when you add Antonio Brown, but I have a feeling that by the time that the Raiders are any good, by the time they can make a splash, Antonio Brown's going to be 34, 35 years old. And while he's still maybe good, he's not going to be that prime receiver that you're paying crazy amount of money to because they reworked his deal as well. He's Mr. Big. He wants to call him Mr. Big Check, but I'm going to keep playing the joke and call him Mr. Big Chest. But man, like I don't follow the move here. I think it would have made more sense for a team like the Eagles or the Packers who have like a solidified quarterback, who have a solidified offense, who are really close to take them over the top. Not a team that should be rebuilding.
I don't see anything in this Kyler Murray thing. I still think it would be Derek Carr, and I still think, as I've said before, that Derek Carr can be and is a good quarterback of this league as long as he gets the right people around him to take that pressure off of him. So obviously that's a start with Antonio Brown. You've got top 5 wide receiver in the league. So
yeah, let's talk about how it impacts fantasy. I mean, AV has been a fantasy football stud. Always basically the top receiver drafted for the last like 5+ years. By going to Oakland, by playing with Carr, a whole new system, everything's changed. How far does he drop? And if he does drop, how far does he drop for you?
I mean, he's going to get targeted maybe just as much, if not more, in Oakland. Derek Carr or whoever the fucking quarterback is there just going to throw balls to him like crazy. John Gruden's going to make sure they're throwing the ball to him because they're spending a ton of money. He's still in my top 10 at the very worst. Yeah. Probably inside the top 7. I mean, I'm not scared. People are going to pass him up probably a little earlier, and I would have no problem grabbing him before all those people who are undervaluing him. I think people will be undervalued, and I'll grab him before some of those people are scared of him.
Yeah, I'm a little bit different on that. I think I'd go the opposite way because I think you've got Hopkins, you've got Odell, you got your boy Adams, you got Michael Thomas, Julio Jones, and then you're right around like that Keenan Allen, Antonio Bryant thing. So I think he's just outside maybe of that top 5. Did I say something wrong?
You said Antonio Bryant.
I'm sorry, Antonio Brown. I kind of have him just outside that top 5. That's probably where I'll have him ranked. Let's just say I'm on the board, though. All those receivers are gone. I would probably opt to go with the running back in that situation and let Antonio Brown be someone else's headache. I would want to. I always say it. I always want to see how that first year plays out with somebody. It backfired on Mahomes, but it's worked in like several other situations. Thanks for the cough button on that one, DJ.
Oh, I thought I did. I missed it. Damn it! I thought I did that time. I thought I hit it.
Nice. But yeah, I mean, he's still right around that top 5 for me. But I think as of now, I mean, we've been able to digest this for a matter of hours. If I had a draft today, I think I'd let AB be someone else's issue. I would want to see it out for at least a year.
So can we talk about? You always have this big, Julio and so much more talent. Give your stupid take on the Julio Antonio Brown talent thing. You take him 1,000 times out of 10 or whatever.
So okay.
Times out of 1,000.
This all stemmed from there was like a Sunday or a Thursday night game, and Antonio Brown went off. He had like a 3 touchdown game, over 100 yards. He was doing Antonio Brown things. I love Antonio Brown. He's great. However, it was after that game. It was everyone's instant like Twitter analysis. Everyone's like has an opinion right after something happens now. And it was not only is Antonio Brown the greatest receiver in the NFL today, they were putting him like ahead of Moss, right behind Jerry Rice, if not ahead of Jerry Rice. And I said, slow your roll. End of the day, Antonio Brown's great. I would still take Julio Jones over him every day of the week. That's kind of where it stemmed from.
Okay, so here's my strife against what you say. Is it because of pure talent? You think he's just more talented? Is that what it is?
I do. With AB, you've got size, speed. You have got an unbelievable catch radius. He's doing it with Matt Ryan, and of all the people who have ever judged Matt Ryan, you might be the harshest. So every single thing that this guy does, in your eyes, it should be considered as a bonus. The guy is like always open. The catch that he made in that Super Bowl in that heartbreaking loss to the Patriots, one of the best catches you'll ever see. The guy couldn't even see the ball, fully extended, tiptoe catch, but he does that routinely. He is like the alpha male receiver. If you're making a player on Madden and you want him to play receiver, you can just carbon copy Julio Jones. He's everything you need.
So, in my opinion, Antonio Brown is at such a big disadvantage compared to Julio. Julio's built huge. He's big. Yeah. He's just a giant freak. Antonio Brown had to work his ass off. And don't get it wrong, people might not like the way he's like conducting himself, but literally nobody in the NFL has outworked Antonio Brown to get to where he has been. That guy is a workout warrior. He works on his routes. He works everything, and he has to work that much harder than Julio to get to the spot that he's gotten to, because Julio is just a physical freak. He was built that way. Obviously, lift weights. He ran routes, but Antonio Brown has so many more things against him. Being the height, he doesn't have that size. He's not a giant. He can't go up and just make catches over everybody without practicing. He had to develop route running. He had to work his ass off to get open and make plays on guys. And that's why I think he's more talented, because he has to do so much more to be on that level.
You can't really disagree with anything you said. That's all true. I mean, like you said, he's a workout warrior. He basically had to carve his own way, and route running and just being that like fundamentally sound guy like took him to another level. I remember always being a pretty decent Antonio Brown fan, and then there was that playoff game that they played the Dolphins. Antonio Brown single-handedly beat the Dolphins within the first 5 minutes of the first quarter of that game, and I was like, you know what, this dude is the real. What we're fighting over, not even fighting, but what we're discussing here is 1A, 1B. Like, you can go either way and not truly be wrong, but what just gets me is like, put Antonio Brown on that Steelers offense and put Julio Jones on that Steelers offense. Make him switch spots is all I'm saying here. I'm thinking that Julio Jones has the same amount of yards, has more touchdowns, and you're going to see Antonio Brown be the guy that gets all the yards and very limited touchdowns. Like, I think it's a lot to do with the situation that they're in.
You make it sound like we're comparing Ryan Tannehill and Aaron Rodgers. We're talking Matt Ryan and Ben Roethlisberger. There's not that big of a difference, except for Ben Roethlisberger's got a couple Super Bowls. But at this point, with where they're playing, we're not talking Ryan Tannehill and Aaron Rodgers. I think you get the exact same numbers, essentially. It's almost more talent offensively on Atlanta than there is on the Steelers. It's like the same teams.
How upset are you that Antonio Brown wasn't dealt to the Bills just to see if that locker room would have actually exploded with Antonio Brown and Jordan Poyer in the same locker room?
I think that it would have been training camp would have been the best, right? That would have been where the fights happened.
Did he get hard knocks there?
Yeah. Once the regular season started, they probably wouldn't be around each other. Offense, defense, they're kind of separated. They are in their own areas on the sideline of the games. They're never they're always opposite. So it's like he'd be in a different part of the locker room. But during that training camp and those offensive defensive battles, I think that's when you see shit explode and they'd be talking a ton of shit about each other. So it'd be a big training camp show.
Yeah, and I'm all about train wrecks. So as soon as the news, like the fake news that AB called it, had broke, man, I was pumped because in my opinion, I was like, there's probably like. Let's say you have the Steelers, you got 31 other teams. He wasn't going to go to a handful. Let's say there's 20 teams. Nowhere in that 20 mix did I ever think the Bills would be one of them just because of that dynamic. And boom, this news breaks. And I'm like, wait, what? That was like the least expected one. Even though they have like one of the biggest needs at wide receiver. I'm like, just that dynamic, they both cannot be there. But yeah, I'm upset. How did we ever get to the point where Antonio Brown's personal trainer is a more reliable source than a guy like Ian Rappaport? What the hell even happened there?
I have no idea.
Like, there was my initial take on it was like, it was a done deal. It was going to happen. And then all of a sudden, Antonio Brown was like, Buffalo? Buffalo sounds cold. I'm not going to Buffalo. Let's go somewhere else. And all of a sudden, like it literally fell through because of that, and he just got caught up in it. But then reports had come out where I was basically like, no, this actually fell apart days ago. I'm not quite sure where Ian Rappaport got his deal from. But yeah, how the hell? He's like supposed to be one of the most credible guys, and there was nothing there. And our breaking news came from Antonio Brown in the weight room and his personal trainer saying, already got the black and gray on. Like, that's where our news comes from now, is the gym from a personal trainer.
How do you think about the ricochet shots here. If you're Josh Allen, how do you feel? There's a serious, it hit the metal wall, and Josh Allen got hit right in the head by that bullet. Like, that is a ricochet shot right at Josh Allen. Like,
oh, yeah.
They just don't, he doesn't want to be on that team.
Yeah.
That's not going to work. He's not going to play with Josh Allen.
Instantly, he's like, I'm throwing to a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL, and then all of a sudden it's, wait, is it me? Did I do this? Like, does he not want to come here because of me? Like, what a terrible feeling.
It's 100% it. That's the thing. It's definitely the reason.
As a guy who picked up Josh Allen last year on waivers in my Dynasty League, I'm not going to lie. I hated the idea as a Dolphins fan that AB was going to play them twice a year. But I was like, you know what? If there's a receiver that can make Josh Allen a little bit better, I bet it's Antonio Brown. So I got really excited for a little bit, and then it just crushed. It just crushed me. I should have sold him while it was hot. I should have sold him in that 1 hour window.
He can run.
He definitely can. Let's talk about a trade that went down prior to all this AB stuff. It was Case Keenum going to the Redskins basically for next to nothing. What do you think is more strange here? The Redskins trading for another average quarterback, or the Broncos going back-to-back seasons bringing in average quarterbacks when I feel like they probably should be rebuilding towards more of a younger quarterback?
So when I initially thought about this, when I was looking at the Redskins, obviously I'm the leader of the is Case Keenum bad trade. But
Truly
the more I look at it, it's like, this is actually a pretty good move for the Redskins. So it's crazier for the Broncos to just keep bringing in average quarterbacks when they should 100%. I don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
The Redskins make sense and it took me a little bit, and I just realized this in the last couple of days, but they're only paying Case Keenum $3.5 million, right?
Yeah.
That's 32nd in the league among quarterbacks. That's a backup quarterback money is what they're paying him. So he's actually getting paid $7 million. $3.5 million of that is also being paid by the Broncos.
Yeah.
And the Redskins are only paying $3.5. So they're essentially just paying him to be a backup, one of the better backup quarterbacks. So they probably draft a quarterback now, I think, based off of this, and be a bridge guy, essentially, and battle with Colt McCoy for his shittiness.
Yeah, I think they're equally crazy on this. I'm not 100% sure. Like you said, I need to see how it really plays out. After the news broke, I had tweeted from our podcast page, at Loaded Box, by the way, on Twitter. I tweeted that the Redskins love recycling average quarterbacks or something along those lines. And I'm fine with him being there if they need like a veteran presence. But if they don't trade for Josh Rosen or if they don't draft a quarterback, this offseason for the Redskins, in my opinion, seems like an outright failure. And since this happened, like, where does this leave this whole idea of the Cardinals potentially trading Rosen and drafting Murray? Like, how often do you see a team trade for two quarterbacks in 1 year? Like, the Redskins were the hot hand, it sounded like, when it came to a team actually jumping into the Rosen sweepstakes. So now if they're gone, yeah, there's other suitors, but where does that leave that trade, and what are the Redskins doing?
I'm still 100% by the fact that Josh Rosen's not getting traded. I know. Everybody's on it. Everybody has the Cardinals taking Kyler Murray. I'm not on it. I don't think he gets traded.
No.
I'm going to be the first. I'm going to beat this into the ground, and when it doesn't happen, I'm going to tell you guys all I told you so. He's not getting traded. It would be so stupid. It wouldn't make any sense. What's the point?
All right, so are you more of the belief that the Raiders end up with Kyler Murray than the Cardinals do?
Yeah, the Cardinals aren't trading Josh Rosen, and they're not going to draft Kyler Murray.
And then if you're the Raiders and you do end up with Kyler Murray, is Derek Carr gone and you're starting Murray from day one, or are you letting Murray kind of sit behind Carr?
Yeah, I can't imagine Derek Carr's can be in that offense.
See, neither can I. Neither can I. And that's what part of it is. Like, Gruden can make all the trades he wants and everything, but yeah, end of the day, I just don't think that you can end up having Kyler Murray in the same quarterback room as Derek Carr, knowing damn well that Derek Carr has no future with that team if Kyler Murray is there. There's zero chance. Another one of the big news over the last week was the Chiefs maybe finding their running back fill-in now that they do not have Kareem Hunt anymore. They signed Carlos Hyde to a 1-year deal. They still have Damian Williams in that backfield. So let's talk back about fantasy football again. Who are you more likely to side with in fantasy football this year between Carlos Hyde and Damian Williams?
I mean, Damian Williams kind of balled out last year, and I liked how he played after he got a chance to play. So right now I'm on the Damian Williams trade, but it's so early, right?
Yeah.
Like, I like Carlos Hyde. I think Carlos Hyde's a good running back. But at this point, it's so hard to predict how they're going to use him and Williams at this point. I just need to wait for coach talk at that point.
Yeah, definitely need that coach talk. That's going to influence your decision.
I need coach talk.
So I see Hyde probably as like that starter, the bulk of the snaps type of running backs, and then I see Williams being that change of pace, more of like a receiving running back. And obviously we don't know ADPs on these guys yet, but I'm thinking that Carlos Hyde's ADP is going to be higher since he likely will be the starter. But I'd probably wait for Williams, especially if you're in a PPR or half PPR league. Williams, in my opinion here, is the Tariq Cohen. Like, that's where his touches are going to be. His touches and his volume are going to come through receiving the ball. He just needs to make the most of those opportunities, just like Cohen does. And in an offense that's led by Pat Mahomes, I love the receiving option. And I'm with you. I like Carlos Hyde. I think he's a good back. I think he can get the job done. It's only a 1-year deal. They're really not married to him here. I like the better receiving option in this end. I think I'd go with the guy with the lower ADP here.
Yeah, I don't know. You think that he'll have a lower ADP? I just can't. I feel like people are just bringing Carlos Hyde to be like a security backup.
Yeah, I don't know.
Type of guy. I don't know. I think it'll be a lot closer. I think they'd be drafted like next to each other, if anything, at worst.
It'll be interesting to watch. I just see, I guess, based on how I've seen teams use Damian Williams, it's never like you really want to rely on him as the starter, where teams have been definitely more likely, and they've shown the willingness to start Carlos Hyde. I guess I'm just taking previous experiences with that one. So I think he's more likely to start.
If somebody in my league drafts one of them, I'm going to make sure they don't get the other one.
You draft the other one right away and then have him as trade bait.
I don't want to give them that opportunity to have both guys.
Right. Let's talk about Pristine Auction real quick, because they've got daily auctions packed with tons of stuff for the man cave. They guarantee their items. They all come with certificates of authenticity from only the trusted sources. It's also affordable. You may not think you can afford autographed memorabilia, but you can. It's quick and free to register. It's free to bid. You only pay when you win. Make sure you mention the Loaded Box podcast in the How Did You Hear About Us section when you register. So head over to pristineauction.com today. And DJ, we're going to do another specific team off-season preview here, and we're going to stay in the NFC North. A couple weeks ago, we hit on the Oakland Raiders. Last week, we did the Green Bay Packers. And then due to a listener request, we are doing the Detroit Lions today. So if you would like to request a team, maybe it's your favorite team, maybe it's a team you're just interested in, hit us up on Twitter at LoadedBox. Let us know your recommendation, and we will do our best to get them in the line. So DJ, with that said, a division foe for you as a Packers fan. You've got the Detroit Lions here. Let's talk first and foremost about what you think are their top needs heading into the offseason. Free agency starts like Wednesday, by the way.
I thought it was tomorrow.
Maybe it is tomorrow.
So I think the season starts on Wednesday, but free agency starts tomorrow.
It's like legal tampering or something?
Yeah, something like that.
We don't know dates. I don't even know what date it is today.
I love tampering. I can legally tamper you pretty soon here, I think. So I've got their biggest needs as an edge player, then I've got corner, and then I've got offensive line. Here's what I'm thinking. It seems like for the past 10 years, all we've said every year is that the Lions need to get better on defense, and it doesn't seem like they ever really get that much better defensively. Like they're kind of good somewhere, then they're really bad elsewhere. But I think they're losing Ziggy. They need to get better defensively, just against the pass in general. And I just think everybody needs to grab an elite pass rusher, and they're what do they got? Pick 8, right, in the first round?
Yep, number 8.
That with how many pass rushers there are, go and get one of those top guys. You're losing Ziggy. You can replace it with somebody definitely better than Ziggy Ansah, and he can improve. This elite pass rusher, if you get the right guy, can improve that defense against the pass. They can improve sacks, and they can also have the ability to stop the run if they're that good. But like if you're getting to the quarterback, you're obviously stopping the pass. So I think that's number 1 ahead of corner, and then adding that corner on the opposite side of Darius Slay, getting yourself another good corner is the second most important. But they just need to add defensively. It seems like I said, we've been watching this for 10 years. We've been trying to say Lions need to get better than defensively, and they just don't. Yeah.
I've seen several people with edge kind of as that top need. I looked into it. They were middle of the road last year in terms of total sacks. But like you said, about to lose Ziggy Ansah to free agency. Their top sack getter last year had 7.5. And you
Who's that?
I don't even remember. I didn't write it down. Don't worry about it. He had 7.5. It wasn't Ziggy. Ziggy only had like 4, but he only played in a handful of games as well. But yeah, like you said, it's a nice year in free agency for edge, loaded with potential edge rushers. So I would probably put edge as like my top 2 or 3 need. And you kind of mentioned the defensive back as well. Many have that as a top need. They were tied for second fewest interceptions in the league last year with 7. Do you know how many interceptions the 49ers had last year?
75.
Close. 2. The 49ers had 2 interceptions last year. And then the Lions, I forgot who they were tied with, but tied for second fewest with 7. But they were 8th in the league in passing yards allowed. So they can definitely improve, but it's not my top need. My top need for them right now is actually linebacker. They've got Jared Davis out of Florida, and they have a couple other names that like regular football fans would know, but they can definitely use an upgrade here. And I've got a guy for them in the draft that I'm going to tell you about. But the only other position that I would really consider like one of their top needs would be offensive linemen, because a couple of days ago they released TJ Lang. And while they have some flexibility with the guys that they have right now, especially last year's first rounder, Frank Ragnow, I don't think they take offensive line number 8 right away. But offensive line would definitely be a need as well. So that's how I got linebacker, edge, and offensive line, kind of in that area. And then secondary as well. Like I said, they're not terrible against the pass, but there's no one that's creating turnovers right now in that secondary.
Yeah, well, like I said, Darius Slade just doesn't get the ball thrown towards him. He is that kind of shutdown cornerback that he's one of the more underrated that doesn't get talked about, but when your team's playing against him, you realize he's out there because they just don't throw his way.
Right.
And then they have, I think it was Quandre Diggs at safety who they locked down, but I think to a decent contract recently. Yeah. Offensive line, they seem to always need to get better in that area. I think they just need to get better coaching. Can that be a off-season move?
Absolutely, it can be.
Because, I don't know, it seems like that's been our biggest weakness for this. So, should I go into the draft? Let's go into some of the draft targets.
Yeah, what do you like here for them at number 8?
They're at pick number 8. So, if they wanted to move up, they could be in the market of getting a guy like Josh Allen if they wanted to move up. They're so close, and like I said, I think getting a pass rusher for them would be a huge move. If not, and they stay at that number 8 spot, I didn't put linebacker in there, but if Devin White's there, I think he's just so talented, so talented. To me, he's the most talented defensive player I saw in football, college football last year. That's just my eyes. Guy is a freak. Sideline to sideline. Monster. Nobody moves like him. It was unbelievable to watch him play. He popped off at the screen to me. I didn't know who he was right away. And the first LSU game I watched, I was like, who is this fucking guy? He's just dominating.
Right.
Obviously, he turns out to be one of the best, if not the best linebacker in college football this last year.
Right.
If not him, if he's off the board, I've talked about this guy every single week. And so when he does get drafted, I'm going to be able to say that I predicted the team he got drafted to, Montez Sweat, just because I'm picking him for every single team.
You could absolutely. Every team not even a team that needs an edge rusher. You could have the Broncos and just throw Sweat at them just because you're going to get it right that way.
Eventually, I'm going to get it because so far he's been a draft target for every team that we talked about, and I'm in love with Montez Sweat. I'm going to go and just watch 24 hours of Montez Sweat video just to get more in love with him.
Oh, you're going to get all sweaty, aren't you?
Yeah, Montez Sweaty. Getting me hot.
Eventually,
I'm getting it right, though.
Right. I love it. You picked my guy at linebacker position. The one I said I was going to talk more about was Devin White. Being a Gators fan, I watch more SEC football than probably any other football when it relates to college, so I've seen quite a few games. But like you said, he's the guy that pops off the screen. Remember Roquan Smith for Georgia? Yep. Especially in those playoff games, like in that second half against Oklahoma, just started popping. Well, that's what the same thing Devin White can kind of do as well. Super fast, super rangy, all the things you said, but awesome against the run as well. He can freaking fill that gap. Huge hitter. And another thing that the Lions have just been craving, he's pretty good in coverage. He ran the fastest 40 of all the linebackers at the combine. So just based on everyone's love for the 40-yard dash, he's a guaranteed top 10 pick now. But man, the Lions have been just trying to find someone to cover running backs and tight ends for years. This is the guy that can end up doing that as well. He's not totally polished yet, but I don't really consider that a terrible thing. It leaves room for him to grow as he gets NFL coaching and as he gets the NFL experience. So I think he's my top-rated, actual not edge linebacker or edge rusher, but he's just a more standard run stuffing, can do a little bit of everything linebacker. He'd be my top-rated one in this draft. But the nice thing about being at number 8 for the Lions, they'll be in play for a guy like Devin White. If they wanted to go the offensive line route, they could go Jonah Williams out of Bama. They could go Juwan Taylor out of Florida. Or, like you said, I don't want to steal your material here, but if they want to go edge rusher, there's a chance for Sean Gary still there. There's a chance you can get Sweaty and go Montez Sweat as well. They could literally stay wherever they are, take the best player available from that position, and they're going to hit a need, and they're going to get best player available. So I think they're in a great spot to just stay where they are.
Yeah, it makes sense. You know what my measurement of a linebacker is? I just decided is how many times he makes me say, where the fuck did he come from?
Right.
Because that's all I remember is it looked like teams were about to bust a big play, and this fucking guy would just come, and Devin White is who I'm talking about. This guy, Devin White, would just come out of nowhere. I can't, I'm gushing about him right now, but legit, it looked like there'd be so many plays that were just about to hit, and he would come at his 4.3 speed. What was his 40?
Yeah, it was like a 4.42 or something. Yeah. It was fast.
Obviously, which makes a lot of sense with how fast he got the guys and brought them down this year. But
right,
it's where the fuck did he come from? Meter is what I call it.
I'm gonna pull a question out of the hat here, because earlier this week I was asking you via text about your thoughts on Kenny Golladay, because I'm sort of like a closet Kenny Golladay believer. I think I overvalue him a little much. Let's talk about Lions skill position players real quick. You're in a fantasy draft, and you can kind of like pick. Well, obviously you can pick your own players, but which person on the Lions would you be more likely to target this year in a fantasy draft? Would it be Kerryon Johnson or Kenny Golladay?
Kerryon Johnson.
Why? You don't like the Detroit running backs?
I'm a little worried about Matt Stafford nowadays.
Are you?
I think he's on a downward trajectory after this last season. I didn't like what I saw. I thought Golladay would be much better than what he was last year.
He started out hot.
Yeah, and I didn't hear much about him the rest of the season. And I know you've got this big Kenny Golladay boner, but I think I'm off that Kenny Golladay train until I get proven wrong. I liked what I saw to Kerryon Johnson last year. I'm hoping that they are smart enough to run the ball more and give him, obviously, the carries to be able to run the ball more. But yeah, I'm 100% on Kerryon, way over Kenny Golladay. I'm probably gonna avoid Kenny Golladay. I'm not even gonna lie.
Wow. Yeah. Obviously, as you would know, I would take them both, but I'm probably with you. Like, if I have to take one, man, what Kerryon did as a rookie, like, very small sample size because he didn't get to play all that much right away in the season, then due to injury. But that guy was getting it done. And I love standing up for Matthew Stafford. And one of my theories is always he's gotten it done before. He can continue to get it done. When he's hot, he looks like one of the best passers in the league. And I always say how young he is. I've been saying that for so long now that he's 31 years old. And I'm not saying that that's old. But, man, you've got, like, a handful of prime years left. Maybe. Like, not everyone's freaking Manning and Breeze and freaking Brady. You know, like, not everyone's cut out to that mold. So, yeah, they're going to have to freaking make a move here pretty damn soon if they want to try to do anything while Stafford was there. Otherwise, they almost feel like they kind of wasted him.
You know, Stafford's been in the league so long that, like, do you not remember his first two seasons? He was, like, out the first two seasons of his career.
Oh, he was hurt all the time right away, yeah.
Yeah, because, and then it was like one of those things where you just thought maybe he's just never going to make it. Like, maybe this is going to be him, and he's never going to turn out to be anything. That's how long he's been in the league, that everybody forgets that era.
You had it right the first time.
I like the era. It's crazy how old he's gotten. It's just like so fast. But he's around like the Aaron Rodgers age-ish.
Right. It feels weird because for some unknown reason, I sort of have like a soft spot in my heart for the Lions. And I don't know if it's just because I always have like high expectations for them and they always fall short. And it just reminds me of being a Dolphins fan where I have these unrealistic expectations and I fall short. So I'm just like, you know what? I might as well feel for the Lions fans as well. But something about me is holding on. I'm a Golladay guy. I'm a Kerryon Johnson guy. And I like what they have the potential here to do at number 8. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Before we wrap this puppy up, DJ, we're a week away from Selection Sunday, March Madness style. You got to pick one Cinderella team to reach that Sweet 16.
Holy shit!
Putting you on the spot. Give me your squad.
One Cinderella team.
Doesn't even need to be all out Cinderella, just like a non-top 20 team.
To reach the Sweet 16?
Yep.
Well, then I'm going to go with the team with the best player that's not on a Power 5. I got to go with Murray State.
That's my answer.
They have John Morant. Like, that one guy can win 2 games on his own. Like, the team is not overall that great, but just to get to the Sweet 16, they'll probably get that 12 seed, win that game against the 5 seed, probably Wisconsin, and then they have a chance to
right.
They have a chance to go to that Sweet 16. Get that Sweet 16 matchup. They're good.
I think I love that. That was going to be my answer as well if I was going to answer my own question. The one thing that I'm probably most sad about, we will not have Sister Jean this year.
Thank God. I fucking hated that bitch.
She loved breakfast pizza. She was half of the reason why we needed breakfast pizza.
I guarantee she dies soon now. After that,
absolutely.
Like, lock it in. Like, she's gonna. You know what? This selfish whore is gonna.
You felt bad saying that, didn't you?
You know what she's gonna do? She's gonna go out and die during the NCAA tournament just to take focus off the NCAA tournament. Like, that's what she's gonna do.
She's gonna make the ultimate sacrifice for her university. It's unbelievable.
I'm gonna be so angry when she dies, and not because she's dead, but just because she's taking all the focus off the NCAA tournament. I know it. I'm calling it right now.
It'll be Friday morning. We're going to be eating breakfast pizza, and we're going to get the news. That's the prediction for me.
If it happens on Thursday, I'll be so angry.
Right.
I'll be so mad.
I love it. Well, you heard it here. If you're filling out those brackets next week, Murray State for DJ. But anyway, thank you for listening as always. Tweet any questions you have or any team suggestions you have for the Offseason Preview podcast on Twitter at LoadedBox. Check out our website, loadedboxpodcast.com. We've got fantasy rankings, podcasts, articles, NFL mock drafts. Anything you need, we have. Check us out again. I don't know what our next schedule is. We're trying to get a guest on here to break down a positional grouping for an NFL draft podcast. We had a lot of fun with those last year, so we're definitely doing them again this year.
I guess this will be a safety.
Who's going to be a safety?
That'll be the position we break down.
Absolutely won't be.
You will see.
Check us out on iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, Spotify. I think I got them all. DJ, send us out.
Bye.
I couldn't have sounded more Canadian.